My name is Jared Foyer, and I am the Executive Director of National Faith and Blue Weekend. We would like to thank our partners, we would like to thank today's speakers, and we would like to thank members of the media for being here for this important press conference. We'd also like to thank Marcia Ferranto, Thomas Canavan, and all the staff of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Museum for hosting us today. I have a few housekeeping notes. The first is that in 3 minutes at 11 o'clock, the press conference will start with remarks from Marcia Ferranto, CEO of the National Law Enforcement Memorial and Museum. She will be followed by Reverend Markell Hutchins, CEO of Movement Forward and National Lead Organizer of National Faith and Blue Weekend. After that, we will hear remarks from members of the national law enforcement organizations. At the conclusion, there will be time for questions by the media. It will be limited time. Amaya Robinson, who you should see, she will have a microphone. She will make the microphone available to members of the media for questions. There will also be time for interviews with select speakers after the press conference. At this point now, speakers should be lined up with Bill Alexander. After you speak, please proceed to stage left, then walk behind the stage and take your seat on the right. We will begin in 30 seconds. So on a personal note, I want to add that this is the third year of organizing National Faith and Blue Weekend, and it is truly an honor to be a part of this initiative. So many people choose to curse the darkness. This is an initiative to light a candle. It brings people together to create safe and just and inclusive communities. This is about solutions in a time when people feel that we are polarized and separated and despairing and struggling with rising crime and tensions with the community and officers. This is something different. This is a solution, and we thank you for being a part of it. With that, I would now like to ask Marcia. Marcia, if you are here, please come up. So I will offer a little more then. In the first 2 years of National Faith and Blue Weekend, we had 3,000 events in all 50 states. It was literally from the tip of the Aleutian Islands to the southernmost Florida Keys. It was in the densest and most urban parts of America, and it was in small communities of 200 residents. There were engagements that involved bringing officers and residents together for dialogue, for crucial conversations. There were social events. There were service activities like Habitat for Humanity builds. 100,000 people engaged in these initiatives over the first 2 years of National Faith and Blue Weekend. And these activities exposed members of the community and officers to each other to build mutual understanding and learn from each other. And that's what National Faith and Blue Weekend is about. It's about learning from each other. We cannot do this if we are divided. We cannot build the type of country and the communities that we want if we are divided, yelling in one corner, our lives matter, and in another corner, our lives matter. That is not the path forward. And that, addressing that, and resolving that, and creating community in all its richness is what National Faith and Blue Weekend is all about. And now with that, I would like to ask Marcia Ferranto, the CEO of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial and Museum, to offer some welcoming remarks. Thank you once again.
All right, good morning and welcome to the National Law Enforcement Officers Museum. Thank you for being here. Is Howard Cook in the room? If so, no, not yet. All right, so Secretary Mayorkes, welcome. I'm amazed on how many times I see you in a month. I mean, I just left Orlando. I thought I left you behind, but here you are. And I want to recognize that when I look to my right and look to my left, you are often standing there. So your commitment to law enforcement and your commitment to the communities that they serve does not go unrecognized. It really is a testament to your leadership. So thank you for being in the House again. It's always good to have you here. So this is our third year of having the Faith in Blue Weekend press conference here at the museum. And I say it every year. This is the perfect backdrop for this launch. On one side of this campus, we honor the fallen. On this side of the campus, we honor the story, the amazing story of American law enforcement. And what pulls it all together is our officer safety and wellness program, our effort that we make to try to keep names off the memorial wall. You know, every successful initiative has to have an incredible leader. And today's initiative that we're talking about is National Faith and Blue Weekend. And I could not be more honored than to introduce the incredible leader, the passionate leader, the leadership that is needed to make an initiative like this come to fruition. Ladies and gentlemen, Reverend Markell Hutchins.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me say first thank you to all of you for being here, most especially to the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund and Museum, and to Secretary Mayorkes and all of our partners here. 3 years ago, like many of you in law enforcement and communities across this country, I began to be very concerned about the tone and tenor of some of the community's response to law enforcement-involved tragedies. When I started to see folks in one corner yelling, "Our lives matter," and people in a different corner yelling, "Our lives matter," I knew that we were headed in the wrong direction, because we've never progressed as a nation when we segregate or separate ourselves from one another. I believe in social justice. I believe in civil rights. I believe in human rights. I was mentored by all of the icons that worked very closely with Martin Luther King Jr., including his wife, Mrs. Coretta Scott King, and so many others. What made the civil rights movement great was it wasn't a cry for one race or a plea from one group of people. It was black and white together, we will overcome. If we are to overcome the tensions that we see, we are to stop attacks on our law enforcement professionals. If we are to see a decline in officer-involved tragedies, it will only happen because we have the courage to stand one with another across our differences. Because when we do that, Mr. Secretary, we all find that there is more that unites us together than there is that divides us. What we are hearing too much from in this country at this moment is what Dr. King called the vocal minority. Dr. King used to talk about the difference in the silent majority and the vocal minority. Communities of color, like every other community, want to be policed with fairness and justice. But black and brown communities are not anti-law enforcement. More than 90% of white Americans, more than 80% of Hispanic and African Americans want the same or more law enforcement. But what we've been hearing too much from in the media and in social media is that vocal minority who want to demonize law enforcement, want to defund the police. Well, in doing so, they hurt the most vulnerable communities among us. As a civil rights leader, I am most disappointed when I hear someone say that defunding the police is a pathway forward. We need more resources focused on mental health. We need more resources focused on alternatives to incarceration. But we need to lift our nation's law enforcement professionals up, not tear them down. And I knew that we needed to do something dramatic and significant in this country. So in April of 2020, I asked the United States Department of Justice, the COPS office is here with us today, to stand with us in convening every single national law enforcement organization in this country. They all came together. I did not realize that it had never happened before, but we brought all of them together for one purpose: to build bridges. To build bridges between cops and communities of every kind. To build bridges between our nation's law enforcement officers and our citizens and residents in our local communities. To build bridges between those who Jesus called the least of these and those who are sworn to protect and serve them. I was reared in Atlanta, Mr. Secretary. I've led some of the largest protests, marches, and demonstrations in Atlanta's history. I'm honored to be joined by our immediate past police chief in Atlanta, Chief Rodney Bryant. And about 5 years ago, after serving as a civil rights leader and leading many marches in Atlanta, the Atlanta Police Department said to me, "We want to put you in the shoes of a law enforcement professional." One of the big TV stations in Atlanta did a big story on it. And what I experienced going through that law enforcement academy, every public voice that speaks to law enforcement issues ought to have that experience. Too often, we don't see what we think we see. My message to the American people: now is the time to turn to each other, not on each other. Now is the time to stand up and be counted. Now is the time to lift our law enforcement professionals up. From 2020 to 2021, the number of law enforcement officers that died in the line of duty doubled in a single year. All the while, law enforcement agencies are having a difficult time retaining and attracting new talent, while crime and violence in our most vulnerable communities is escalating. We need a new direction. We need a new path. And that pathway to progress focuses on partnerships. Partnerships that unite us together instead of dividing us. And that's why we organized National Faith in Blue Weekend. With all of our law enforcement professionals, we launched Faith in Blue for the first time in October of 2020. In the midst of the pandemic, in the midst of the outcry and the protest of that summer, there were more than 1,000 community-based events across 43 states in this country. In year two, last year, there were more than 2,000 community engagements in all 50 states, plus Washington, D.C. In the span of 3 years, this effort has become the largest and most consolidated police community outreach project in American history. That's a testament to these law enforcement agencies and associations. They're here today to extend an olive branch to the American people. They're here today to issue a call for help, for support, for unity, for collaboration. We had no idea when we started this just how much the nation needed it. My challenge to every faith-based and community organization: it's not enough to hang a sign outside of your door. You've got to invite law enforcement professionals inside to have a conversation. There's not a problem in this country, Mr. Secretary, that we cannot solve if we have the courage to sit together and reason together and converse together. Today we announce the third Faith in Blue Weekend, Friday, October 7th through Monday, October the 10th. Law enforcement agencies, large and small, in every state in this country will hold community-based events where they focus the attention of their community on the need to actually solve problems. What we need more than anything else is to sit together and figure out a pathway forward. The answers to the challenges we face at this moment when it comes to crime, when it comes to tension, and when it comes to officer-involved tragedies, the answers will not just be printed in the ink of a piece of legislation, in an executive order, and it cannot be taught in the academy. The answers lie in the hearts and minds of every resident in every local community and every law enforcement officer in this country. That's what we need. What killed George Floyd was not flawed policy. The officer that killed George Floyd violated the department's policy. There's a lot of talk in this moment about the need for reform. And I believe, as most of our law enforcement partners believe, there is a need for some standardization, some reformation, and certainly some innovation in law enforcement. But the biggest need for reform in America today when it comes to policing is relational reformation. We need to get our law enforcement professionals and our community residents to relate to one another as humans with shared values, as sisters and brothers with shared interests. So today, I join with all of our national law enforcement partners and our state association partners in all 50 states. We call upon every law enforcement agency to get involved, host events over Faith in Blue Weekend, get out into the community and show the community that we're not as divided as we are disconnected. I call upon every faith-based organization, every community-based organization to come together with your law enforcement professionals. Let's build these bridges, because if there's ever been a time where our nation needed and deserved this leadership, that moment is now. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor and privilege to welcome to the podium now the Honorable Alejandro Mayorkes, Secretary of the United States Department of Homeland Security, our nation's largest law enforcement agency. Mr. Secretary.
The first thing I will do is lower the microphone considerably. Good morning, and thank you very much for inviting me to join you. Faith in Blue seeks to bring law enforcement agencies and faith-based organizations together to unify and more effectively safeguard our communities across the country. It is an initiative that is based on a core principle that our safety and security are best achieved when we work in partnership with one another, when, in the service of our communities, we ourselves work as a community together. The Department of Homeland Security is fundamentally a department of partnership. One of our key roles is to equip and empower communities to be safe and secure. We fulfill that role by working with law enforcement professionals, faith-based organizations, residents, businesses, and community groups. We are proud to be a member of the partnership, and I am very proud to be here with you today. We live in an extremely challenging time, a time when the bounds of trust between our communities and law enforcement are frayed, and the threat landscape is dynamic. In our increasingly interconnected society, trust is a key element of achieving public safety. The reality is that we can only strengthen and rebuild the bonds of trust by our actions. We are working with all of you, in partnership with you, in a number of different ways. We share information and intelligence with you, seeking to reach the broadest audience possible at the lowest classification level possible. Since early last year, we've issued more than 100 unclassified intelligence products and issued 6 National Terrorism Advisory System bulletins that describe and contextualize for the public the evolving threat environment in which we live. Our nonprofit security grant program supports security enhancements, planning, and training for nonprofit organizations and places of worship at risk of terrorist attacks. This year, we're providing $250 million, an increase of $70 million over last year. Through our emergency response grant programs, we've increased our funding to law enforcement agencies by more than $50 million as well. The tragedies in Buffalo, Uvalde, and Highland Park involved individuals who were exhibiting signs of serious decline down a path that involved an increasing interest in violence. We all recognize there is a critical need for prevention At DHS, we're developing programs and resources to enable faith-based organizations, schools, healthcare services, law enforcement, school officials, friends, neighbors, and others in the community to build their capacity to prevent violent acts from happening in the first place. We in the Department of Homeland Security are bringing critical stakeholders together. Faith in Blue is a parallel effort that, through all of our presence here today, proves to be a powerful vehicle in the service of partnership and the safety and security our partnership is designed to achieve. We need to work as a community to address the threats to our community. Trust is essential to our success. Thank you to Faith in Blue for bringing us one step closer to it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. This effort would not be possible without the support of the sponsors that sponsor Faith in Blue Weekend. They give us the opportunity to service and support every law enforcement professional, every law enforcement agency in this country with the resources. You can find those resources at www.faithandblue.org, www.faithandblue.org. Our sponsors for Faith in Blue Weekend are the Motorola Solutions Foundation and FirstNet, built with AT&T. To speak about their support of Faith in Blue, I want to welcome Mr. Jack Malloy, Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer of Motorola Solutions, followed by Ms. Carolyn Van Wy. She's Vice President of Federal Regulatory for AT&T, the parent company of FirstNet. Mr. Malloy.
Thank you, Reverend Hutchins. The creation of safer cities and thriving, equitable communities are at the core of Motorola Solutions Foundation's purpose. We fundamentally believe the communities are safer when those that are called on to serve and protect and those that they actually serve continue to build communication and collaboration. That's why we're so honored to support the National Faith in Blue Weekend in its third year. I'd also like to acknowledge all of the law enforcement leaders, the agencies and associations they represent, as well as the faith-based leaders that are here today. I'd also be remiss not to acknowledge movement forward, and particularly the leadership of Reverend Markell Hutchins, who, as we have all heard, has been a tremendous catalyst, I think, for change. The events that will unfold here over the course of the next month create critical connections within our communities. I think most importantly, foster the dialogue around policing, around trust, around safety. We know that this year's National Faith in Blue Weekend will continue to build momentum. And most importantly, they serve as a mechanism for us to build stronger connections and a bridge between the law enforcement community and those that they serve. We're humbled and very proud to be here to support the third National Faith in Blue Weekend. Thank you.
Good morning. Special thanks to our industry partner, Motorola Solutions, and the distinguished representatives of law enforcement that are here with us today. As we stand here in our nation's capital to highlight the collaboration between faith-based organizations and our brothers and sisters in law enforcement, we are creating a stronger environment of trust and compassion within our communities. Just as our nation's capital represents justice and liberty for all, Faith in Blue's mission is to build bridges to more inclusive communities around the country. We at FirstNet, but with AT&T, are proud to support an organization that is impacting our world positively each and every day. To know someone is to know their story, who they are, where they came from, and where they're going. Our stories bring people together, make sense of the world around us, and can even be an instrument to ignite change in a positive way. At FirstNet, but with AT&T, we are also committed to building bridges between public safety and the communities they serve. In 2017, we were selected to serve as the nation's public safety wireless communications needs through our public-private partnership with the FirstNet Authority by creating the nationwide public safety broadband network, also known as FirstNet. FirstNet is designed to strengthen law enforcement's ability to communicate and better serve their communities day to day and during times of crisis. We are proud to work alongside law enforcement agencies around the country and be a witness to the acts of bravery our first responders take part in every day to keep our communities safe. Doing the right thing without compromise underpins all of our values, and it begins with how we communicate. Clear and reliable communications pave the way to a better future. Today, we're honored to help in bringing law enforcement and faith-based communities together in a unique partnership to unite around our common interests. Pursuing interconnectedness and finding common ground can only push all of us to create a safer and better world. Thank you, Reverend Hutchins, for allowing us to be part of Faith in Blue. We look forward to what we can continue to do together for our communities.
Faith in Blue Weekend is not a religious proposition. This is not about religion or sectarianism. There are 350,000 faith-based organizations in this country. More than 65 million people participate in some form of a faith-based service every week. So when our law enforcement partners and our sponsors and partners in the government were looking for a way to actually build these bridges in a sustaining, meaningful way, faith-based organizations emerged as the most likely vehicle for building those bridges because they represent the demographics, the dynamics, the culture, and the tone and tenor of that community. There's never been a movement in American history for positive change that was not anchored in the faith-based space. And I believe that is why nearly every major law enforcement association in this country is partnered together for the first time in American history on a single police community outreach project, National Faith in Blue Weekend. Leaders from many of our partners are here. Several of them will make remarks on behalf of their associations, and they will come in this order, entering the stage this way and exiting that way. First, Larry Cosme, President of the Federal Law Enforcement Officers Association. He will be followed by Patrick Yoles, President of the Fraternal Order of Police. He will be followed by Chief Don Tejerina, President-elect of Hispanic Officers Command Association, or HAPCOA. He will be followed by Chief Patrick Ogden, immediate past President of the International Association of Campus Law Enforcement Administrators. He will be followed by Chief Steve Castevens, who is the immediate past President of IACP, or the International Association of Chiefs of Police. He will be followed by Chief Robert Conte, the Chief of the Washington Metropolitan Police Department. And I'm going to ask the other major county chiefs, Chief Hyatt, Chief Aziz, and Chief Davis, to stand with Chief Conte as he speaks on behalf of major city chiefs. They will be followed by Chief Gina Hawkins, President-elect of the National Association of Women Law Enforcement Executives, or NAWLEE. She will be followed by President Brenda Goss Johnson, President of the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives, who will be joined on stage by Chief Rodney Bryant, the President-elect of NOBLE. Finally, Chief William Bonyak, President of the National Sheriff's Association, in that order. President Cosme.
Good morning, folks. Welcome to those in attendance and those watching via live stream. I have the pleasure and the honor of being with Reverend Markell and the Faith in Blue folks here. And I wanted to tell you, as the leader of the Federal Law Enforcement Officers Association, it's an honor for me and for our organization to have partnered up with Faith in Blue and Reverend Markell. And also want to thank Marshal Ferranto for hosting this event. This is a beautiful event. And I'm going to tell you, like my father always told me as a child, when you have a negative, like the Reverend was talking about earlier, when there's negative stuff going on in any community, whether it's in an inner city where I grew up or the hinterlands, you have to turn it into a positive. He always told me, Larry, when you're down and out and you're feeling negative on something, turn it into a positive. And this is what the Faith in Blue is all about. Turning it into a positive, bridging the gap between the law enforcement community, whether it's at the state, local, or even the federal level. The men and women I represent at the Federal Law Enforcement Officers Association are doing a phenomenal job in assisting state and local partners, bridging that gap. And that's what's important with Faith in Blue. And partnering up with Reverend Markell, you've done an outstanding job with your team, and I am happy and proud to be a part of that with my team, because we know that that's beneficial not only to the communities that the men and women that we lead serve, but also beneficial to the people that we represent, because it makes them much safer. It gives them the ability to know the communities that they serve, the communities that they patrol, the communities that they're helping protect from violent crime in America. And that's an important message to send out there to the men and women that we lead, that we have your backs. 100% of the general public is behind you, although there may be that 1% out there that turns around and tells you, oh no, they're, the law enforcement folks are the bad guys. No, they're not. Let me tell you something, because the first folks you call 911. You don't call somebody else. You call 911 and you ask for help. So Faith in Blue is about bridging the gaps. I implore all those folks in the communities, if you're listening out there, please help bridge that gap with the communities that you live in. Help bridge that gap with the law enforcement folks and the law enforcement leaders in your community. It could be the regular patrol officer on the beat in your neighborhood. Thank them for what they're doing. Help them out and support them. Thank you, and God bless you all, and thank you for being here today. Thank you.
Good morning. Reverend Hutchins, thank you. Thank you. On behalf of the 364,000 members of the Fraternal Order of Police, we're very proud for this to be our third year in support of this program. You're not far from here. In fact, if you walk out the door and cross the street, you'll find the names of over 23,000 men and women who showed up to work in support of their communities and did not return home at the end of their shifts. And unfortunately, we find ourselves in a very difficult time in American history. In the last 2 years, America's law enforcement has been demonized by many. It has created a rift within this country and eroded the very trust of the institution, a noble profession of law enforcement. And we're paying for it. We're paying for it in our communities with higher crime, and we're also paying for it in law enforcement officers. So far this year, 210 officers have been shot while serving their communities just this year alone, which is an increase from last year. Something has to happen. And one thing every American can rally behind, we all agree, and the polls support it, that America is united in the fact that we are concerned about crime in our communities, and we want to be a part of the solution. That solution starts with one simple conversation. It starts with stop dehumanizing and get to know each other on both sides of this issue. And together, there's not a single thing that we can't solve if we work together to do it. It is too vitally important for us to not get this right. So we are very honored to be part of this. Markell, thank you for the initiative of putting this together, and thank all of you for carrying this message. We have an opportunity here to reverse what's happening in erosion of law enforcement. I want to signal a crisis that I think probably most of us in this room recognize. We have seen a period of time where we've seen law enforcement officers leave our profession at a rate we've never seen before. And our profession is dependent on the best and the brightest stepping up and taking this job. And because of the actions and because of the turmoil that has happened in the last 2 years, we have a crisis right now in manpower. And it's creating two major issues. One of them is the wellness of the officers who are working every day, who still shoot up and show up every single day in their communities and make a difference in the lives. Some 800,000 of them make a difference in the lives of the people they serve. And on the other side of this is that next wave. We need the next wave of people to come up and be part of what we're doing. And this could be a great catalyst for us to start the discussion with the best and brightest, the next wave of law enforcement officers to become the community they want to be. So I'm honored to be here as part of this. Thank you. And thank all of you for your attendance here as well. Thank you.
I'm going to have to do a Secretary Mayorkes here. So, good morning. Buenos dias. Bienvenidos, everyone. I'm part of the Hispanic American Police Commanders Association, HAPCOA. As a founding member of the National Faith and Blue Weekend, again, we proudly support the community faith-based effort as it launches its third national weekend event. The National Faith and Blue Weekend continues to build upon a solid foundation that presents a path forward to better communities, improved understanding, openness, and a common goal. Many HAPCOA members will support their designated departments and communities nationwide as they sponsor a variety of activities that include cookouts, food pantries, school supply handouts, concerts, festivals, and conversations that facilitate conversations between community leaders and the public. Yeah, they've taught, Reverend Markell touched on a couple of important topics. Relationships. So this is the opportunity for communities and law enforcement to get together in non-traditional ways. For persons, for the people, for regular people to see officers as individuals. You know, it's that non-confrontational, just sit down, have those conversations, to, if they don't have those relationships, to open them, if they have them, to further them, because those are important. That's what it's all about. It is about people. It helps in all kinds of measures. You know, as officers, we all, you know, if you're in the field, you know that those leads to all kinds of positives in all kinds of different ways, just having those better relationships in the community. And we ask that everyone out there, we have our membership from coast to coast participating. We already have commitments for this year. We're asking that everyone engage, that social media, all you influencers out there, get these hashtags, Faith and Blue Weekend, Trust, whatever you come up with. You know, this is important. Make this happen. We appreciate, again, Reverend Markell, for all you do. Again, this is important. It's about public safety. This matters. This can really make a difference about, you know, reducing crime. It's one aspect of it. This communication, as others have touched on already. So we appreciate being able to be a part of this. Again, so everybody, we ask that you become involved, and we appreciate the ability to be part of this. So thank you on behalf of HAPCOA, and I wish I could speak like you, Reverend Markell, but I put people to sleep. So I'm going to get out of here, so thank you.
Back up again. Greetings. My name is Patrick Ogden, and I proudly serve the International Association of Campus Law Enforcement Administrators, or IACLEA, as the immediate past president. Our current president, John Ojaskoba, could not be with us here today because he's moving his oldest son into his college freshman dorm room, but he sends his heartfelt regards. Our robust association of 7,000 dedicated professionals representing over 1,000 institutions of higher education in 14 countries around the world, is committed to global networking, problem solving, and maintaining best practices. Put simply, we believe in working together and sharing resources to accomplish our collective goals. IACLEA is honored to have the opportunity to partner with National Faith and Blue Weekend in this noble effort to rebuild stronger partnerships between houses of worship, communities, and law enforcement entities. We are improving, but we remain at a time of an unprecedented crossroads in our country, with challenges on many fronts. And at IACLEA, we recognize that collaboration between police agencies and faith-based institutions will enhance trust in the communities we're all sworn to protect. As we take time to reflect upon the past few years and prepare for the years ahead, police and faith-based leaders have a unique opportunity to be catalysts for positive change by creating a culture of innovation through creative vision. I'm confident that brighter days are ahead based on partnerships like Faith and Blue, because they're committed to providing high-quality, contemporary, and forward-thinking programs to assure that we're aligned to rebuild trust and enhance accountability while forging a constructive path forward. I'm humbled to stand here today with our partnering organizations to join Faith in Blue in the hope of inspiring communities across the country to host mutual gatherings centered on service projects, athletic contests, picnics, forums, and other activities that will result in positive engagement. I call upon the police chiefs of every university police department across the country to join in this noble effort. On a personal note, I've had an opportunity to work closely with Reverend Markell Hutchins and his Movement Forward team over this past year. And in that capacity, I've witnessed his passion, enthusiasm, and tireless work ethic. I'm honored to call him my friend. I thank you for your support as well as your friendship, and I look forward to being stronger together because of this amazing community outreach initiative. Thank you.
Good morning. My name's Steve Cass-Stevens. I'm police chief in Buffalo Grove, Illinois, and past president of the IACP. It's my honor to join everyone here today in recognition of the 3rd annual National Faith in Blue Weekend. This, like many of you, this is my 3rd year here, and it's been truly amazing to witness the growth of this initiative since its inception, and to see across the country local residents and police coming together to facilitate safer, stronger, and more unified communities. The IACP believes that trust and transparency between law enforcement and the people they serve is vital to community stability and effective policing. We are deeply committed to supporting communities and police in their efforts to engage in productive dialogue, form strong partnerships, and identify meaningful solutions. National Faith in Blue Weekend offers a unique way to reinforce such collaboration and creates a platform to build and strengthen the ties between our communities and the police. The IACP is pleased to be included in this important initiative and offer our continued support. On behalf of the 33,000 members of the IACP in 168 countries, Reverend Hutchins, I want to thank you for organizing this important event, and I encourage every law enforcement agency in this country to do 2 things. Number 1, go to this website, and number 2, host an event, because that's what this is all about. Thank you.
Well, good morning. I'm the Chief of Police for the Metropolitan Police Department of Washington, D.C., Robert Conti. And today, I am representing the men and women of MPD, but also the Major City Chiefs Association. We have been a supportive and participating partner of the Faith in Blue initiative since its inception in 2020, and honored to strengthen relationships in 2022 by connecting with our community and faith-based institutions through this national event. The Major Cities Chiefs Association represents police executives from the largest cities across the United States and Canada. And today, I'm joined by the Chief of Fairfax County, Kevin Davis, the Chief of Prince George's County, Malik Aziz, and the Chief of Baltimore County, Melissa Hyatt. They are all members of the Major Cities Chiefs Associations. Our organization was formed so that police executives could share ideas, experiences, and strategies for addressing challenges of policing in large urban areas. The ability to collectively share our unique perspectives and insights help guide things such as department policy, training, and innovation. It also allows for us to gain insight from partner agencies in their successful approaches in enhancing trust and communication in their communities. Because we know that mutual trust and respect between law enforcement and the public is a necessity, this trust makes cities safer. And from my experience, engaging in relational policing is one of the best methods for building a strong bond between the community and law enforcement. Every encounter between an officer and the public is an opportunity to connect and establish a positive impression. This experience has a ripple effect when we do need to lean on community for their assistance. We know they can be a tremendous asset in closing cases, providing intelligence, and extending services to some of our most vulnerable populations. Major Cities Chiefs Association recognizes that one of the most important relationships in communities is with faith leaders. So, Reverend Hutchins, I want to extend a hearty thank you to you for being the visionary of such a wonderful initiative that is inclusive of not just communities, but also law enforcement agencies all around our country. They serve as trusted advisors to many in the community and can positively influence neighborhoods through conversation and action. The idea of the National Faith in Blue Weekend initiative has been simple, yet very effective. Facilitate collaborations between law enforcement and residents through established houses of worship in an effort to build safer, stronger, unified communities. Our faith-based partnerships can be a powerful motivator with addressing some of our community's most challenging issues. And together, we can highlight positive solutions, promote action, and build lasting connections. There will be a number of our agencies participating in this effort across the country, including my department, the Metropolitan Police Department here in Washington, D.C. It is my hope that each of my fellow MCCA agencies can show this united approach and serve as an inspiration for all. So on behalf of Laura Cooper, the Executive Director of the Major City Chiefs Association, we officially endorse the Faith in Blue Weekend this year and are excited to make this most impactful weekend in the initiative's brief history of only 3 years. Congratulations, sir. Thank you.
Just a quick note, more than 95% of the nation's major cities participate in Faith in Blue Weekend every single year, and we're honored to have them. Sheriff Dennis Lima, who is president of Major County Sheriffs, will come next, followed by Chief Hawkins, District Attorney John Flynn, President Brenda Goss Johnson, and finally, Sheriff Bornier. Sheriff?
Well, thank you so much, Reverend Hutchins. God has blessed us with your presence at this incredible, difficult time in our country, and your advocacy, your charisma, and your willingness to exhaust all of your political capital and the faith-based leaders of this country is something that is not overlooked by any of us. Representing Major County Sheriffs of America, which is about 110 sheriffs, elected sheriffs of the largest counties in America, representing 130 million U.S. citizens, stands boldly behind the efforts of Faith in Blue. We recognize that we are in a world that is incredibly divided right now, what I would define as a lot of hate that's out there. And what's interesting is there's a strong emotional tie to the word hate. Actually, the only thing that comes to the emotional connection of the word hate is love. And that's exactly what this effort, this initiative is doing in our communities every single day. When in some regards, the policing profession is under attack, that is absolutely a false narrative. And it's nice to see our faith-based leaders and partners coming up boldly saying that our citizens love our police officers. They love the service. Quite literally, as we sit here today, there are men and women that are walking that thin blue line protecting our domestic and international freedom and ask for very little in return. What they ask for is a community that appreciates their service. That's what we're looking for, and that's what this effort, this initiative brings to us every single day. If done properly, it builds greater communication. Communication leads to greater dialogue. Dialogue builds trust. And that's the path moving forward. I encourage every major county sheriff of America to promote and participate in these events. We will share on our websites, our social media, all of these efforts as we move forward. But again, Reverend Hutchins, thank you and your team for your advocacy, your leadership, and the work that we do across this country is indeed God's work. Thank you so much.
Good morning. My name is Chief Gina V. Hawkins, and I am the Police Chief of Fayetteville, North Carolina. I am honored to be here on behalf of the National Association of Women Law Enforcement Executives, NAWLEE, representing President Sonia Quinones, our executive board, and all of our members. The National Association of Women Law Enforcement Executives was not only formed to support and promote women in the executives, not only to support women, but we recognize there's an opportunity to provide a forum for our community regarding the exchange of information concerning law enforcement. You see, although I am here representing NAWLEE as an executive, I, like many of my members, also are a member of the other national associations and organizations and executives in this forum today. So you ask, if we all stand together, why are there so many different law enforcement organizations? Well, that brings us to the purpose of the day, because favor is not fair. And if we were all treated the same, there would be no reason for so many different organizations to stand together. This is the basis of the crisis of our nation and how so many different people within our communities can feel so different and divided. As leaders, our differences is what makes us stronger. But our lack of intentionally seeking out to understand each other will just keep us divided and weak. We are here because of faith. Faith is an expression of hope to something better. Dr. Martin Luther King said, "Faith is taking the first step even when you don't understand or see the whole staircase." So as members of NAWLEE, we understand more than most the need of relationship building in order to accomplish our goals. We understand it's about relationships, and building those relationships within our community starts with us. I personally have had the honor and privilege to have known Reverend Markell Hutchins for a little longer than 3 years as a result of this National Faith in Blue. You see, Reverend Hutchins, in his vision years ago, a little longer than 5 years, Reverend Hutchins, it's probably like 6.5, started one congregation, one precinct initiative within the Atlanta area, and it brought the ideas to so many law enforcement executives. And I can provide clear personal testimony regarding the impact of the quarterly faith forums that I have in my community. So when I found out National Faith in Blue was starting 3 years ago for an entire weekend of relationship building opportunities, it was too easy to join. You see, our communities are in a time of pain right now. From the increase of gun violence, the increase of mental health crisis throughout our communities, and the intentional movement of division and dissension going on in our nation, there is no better time than now to start planning for National Faith in Blue weekend in October. If you are in the criminal justice profession, you can no longer keep doing the same things you have been doing. If you are in the criminal justice profession and you are not reaching out to your faith community members to have a conversation, you need to ask yourself why. If you are in the criminal justice profession and believe your community does not need to build stronger relationships, then I am speaking to the members of your community and telling them to go reach out to you and let you know that they do want stronger relationships. Faith without works is dead. So this will be more than a verbal checklist of commitment. You have to put in the work, and a National Faith in Blue makes it so easy with a comprehensive planning toolkit. Please reach out and start planning, because I believe National Faith in Blue will not stop nationally. I believe Reverend Hutchins' vision was actually to go globally. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is John Flynn. I am the president of the National District Attorneys Association. I am also the district attorney of Buffalo, New York, Erie County, New York. And as I start all my presentations, Buffalo, New York is the home of this year's Super Bowl champion. I want to, first of all, I want to thank Reverend for inviting us to be here. I believe that it is important for prosecutors and district attorneys to be part of this movement and part of this endeavor. A gentleman earlier used the word learn as the main word for what this weekend can accomplish. Let me add a second word, and that word is trust. Without trust, none of us can do our job. Certainly, us prosecutors have a difficult time doing our job in this environment. As many a speaker has said, we are in perilous times. We are in times when individuals are attacking our profession, including district attorneys. And what I want to do as part of this weekend, but in addition to this weekend, as part of my presidency as the National District Attorney leader, is to fight back against this narrative. And this weekend of Faith in Blue can not only fight back against the narrative, it can build trust. Just remember that it is all of us in law enforcement, you individually, your communities, your officers, along with prosecutors who created diversion courts years ago. This notion that prosecutors, that all we want to do is put people in jail, is a false narrative. It is simply not true. We started diversion courts. We give people second chances, third chances, fourth chances every day as prosecutors. And that is the message that needs to get out there. Yes, we can be and need to be tough on crime. But on the other hand, we can give people a second chance. We can help individuals. That is why God gave us two hands. We can do both. And so this weekend is a weekend to build that trust. So I encourage everyone out there, every community, every city, every county, to get involved, to have an event, to join this movement and join this weekend. Because in Buffalo, New York, and Erie County, we're going to. We need it. As we all know, we had a very unfortunate situation happen on May 14th in my city. And I'm the district attorney who was prosecuting that case. I will bring that case to justice. But more importantly, I need, and all of us district attorneys across the country need to build the trust. And that is what this weekend does. So, Reverend, I want to thank you for all that you do. I want to thank every officer out here for all that you do and all that your officers do each and every day. Because together, we can not only learn, but build that trust. God bless you all. Thank you, Reverend.
Down again. Good afternoon. I bring greetings from the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives. NOBLE was founded right here in D.C., Washington, D.C., in 1976 by a group of law enforcement professionals who were concerned about urban crime and the lack of promotional opportunities for African American officers. So it always makes me feel good to be back. I went to Howard University here as well. I am Brenda Goss Andrews, National President of NOBLE, and a retired Detroit Police Deputy Chief. I'd like to say that, unfortunately, one of our officers in Detroit was killed last month, and his name, Lauren Courts, will be inscribed on that wall. I didn't know Lauren, but I understand he was a great officer. But I did know his dad, and I worked on the Detroit Police Department with his dad. So having initiatives like this lets the community know that we are not, as police, exempt from violence as well. We at Noble are excited and honored to once again join Movement Forward, Inc., under the leadership of Reverend Markell Hutchins, in support of National Faith in Blue Weekend. With all of the tragic events, especially those involving gun violence occurring in our country and in the world, the police and community must come together in a peaceful moment to work out viable solutions to combat this increasing violence in our community. The National Faith Initiative offers many opportunities, dialogue, and toolkits. If you go to the website, you'll find things that you can do in your communities to bring about this discussion between the community and the police. We applaud all of our fellow officers, many of you that are here today, our peers, our fellow organizations that are here as we collectively participate in community and law enforcement engagement from October 7th through October 10th. In fact, I was talking to one of our committee members last night as she is preparing in Detroit many activities around this Faith in Blue initiative. And I'll pause right now because I want to acknowledge a couple of people before I wrap up. Our Executive Director, Dwayne Crawford, who many of you know is here. Also, we have one of our board members, Estella Thomas, right here in DC, and a chapter president, Wesley Thomas, who's here in the audience. Raise your hand. And I know that he's going to put on an awesome Faith in Blue weekend here in DC, right? Okay. Noble's network of approximately 50 chapters, which includes the DC chapter by Mr. Thomas, throughout the country and internationally, stand at the ready to support this faith-based initiative. And like I said, we have already started that in Detroit, and I think many of our chapters throughout the country have also started the planning. Thank you, Reverend Hutchins, for inviting me on behalf of Noble. In closing, I would like to introduce Noble's first Vice President, Rodney Bryant, for brief remarks. VP Bryant will be responsible for coordinating Noble's Faith in Blue activities throughout all our regions and chapters, and I know it will be awesome. VP Bryant.
Thank you, Madam President. My name is Rodney Bryant. I'm the first Vice President of Noble and the most recent retirement Chief of City of Atlanta. Much like Chief Hawkins, my perspective of this initiative is a little different because I remember Reverend Markell Hutchins from actually not just one church, one precinct, but prior to when he was leading those civil rights movement marches through our city. And I can tell you that our relationship was quite different. We were more adversarial than we were relationship or in the space that we are in today. But what we believe and what we recognize to be important is what he said early on, is when you find out where we can work together and where we can build relationship, we can move better. And I think that clearly this opportunity, this initiative has put us in that place. It is quite evident of what I see before me today. As Reverend Hutchins spoke, I remember the calls in the early stages of the one church, one precinct, me being very resistant, not because of the idea, but it was that I couldn't see the forest for the trees. I remember telling him, Markell, we're already doing this. The City of Atlanta Police Department already go to churches, but his perspective and his view was much more broader than mine.
And clearly his passion, his commitment, and I'd be remiss if I didn't say this, but his passion and his commitment for this initiative was consistent. And he would always interject in that statement, but Chief, this isn't about me. And that's the most important part. It lets me know that his heart and his commitment was in the right place. And that's why I'm standing here before you, because I believe in the initiative of this, that where you can get two institutions, both the faith-based and law enforcement, coming together to work for one idea, that's where we can merge the works that we do to make our communities much better. So, Reverend Hutchins, thank you so much. Madam President, thank you for allowing me to speak.
Good morning, everyone. Well, actually, it's noontime, so it's my honor to be here today. And on behalf of the National Sheriff's Association, we are honored to join with other national law enforcement agencies throughout the country today, as well as houses of worship and our citizens throughout our country. So I want to thank Reverend, excuse me, I want to thank Reverend Markell Hutchins for his foresight and being a visionary behind the movement forward and the National Faith and Blue Weekend. I also want to thank everyone who works behind the scenes, our sponsors, our COPS office at the Department of Justice. Our communities are stronger and safer when residents, faith-based organizations, law enforcement work together, enhancing communities, building relationships, strengthening these bonds in our communities. This is why National Faith and Blue Weekend is so important. NSA will encourage all sheriffs throughout the country and their deputies to participate in this upcoming National Faith and Blue Weekend. Whenever I get a chance to say, it's better to be a part of a community than apart from it. Thank you very much. God bless.
You've heard my name said a number of times, but I want to be clear about something, because my mother is at home watching. It's not about me. To God be the glory, and our communities be uplifted. I also want to thank this team. I think I have the best staff in the world, and they have done the difficult work of organizing, and I want to thank each one of them for their efforts. I get a lot of credit, but my Chief Operating Officer, Jared Foyer, is a driving force in our organization. I'm on the road speaking and meeting all the time, and he keeps the wheels running. So I want to say thank you to my brother. We are a Black and Jewish combination that's a force to be reckoned with. I also got to say thank you to our partners at the U.S. Department of Justice. The COPS office has been a founding partner of Faith and Blue Weekend since we had this idea. The acting director, Rob Chapman, is with us, as is the senior advisor, Mr. Gilbert Moore. I want to thank the Attorney General, Merrick Garland, the Deputy Attorney General, Lisa Monaco, and the Associate Attorney General, who I've spoken to, and they are also supportive, as is obviously Secretary Mayorkes in the Department of Homeland Security. I want to thank our sponsors, Motorola Solutions Foundation and AT&T. We could not do this work without you, and especially to our law enforcement partners in local communities. We want to encourage every community-based organization, every faith-based organization to go to faithandblue.org. This is an opportunity. It's a moment that will turn into a movement to drive down violent crime, to drive down police-involved tragedies, to drive down the attacks on our law enforcement professionals. What we've seen, Sheriff Lima, over the last couple of years, is a lot of protesting, a lot of marching on one another. I believe in marching, but we've been marching in the wrong direction. And the evidence is clear. There continues to be an escalation and incidents of law enforcement involved tragedies where unarmed people are hurt. There continues to be an increase in attacks on our law enforcement professionals. Police officers are leaving the profession like never before, making our streets less safe. Officer suicides are up, and crime is skyrocketing. We've been marching in the wrong direction. Rodney, that's why I'm committed to marching with law enforcement, because together is our only path forward. I want to thank all of our national partner organizations who are here. I'm going to ask all of the leaders of the national associations to join me on stage. This is why we're doing it, to the American people that are watching. When I was growing up a boy preaching, there were two things that I was taught to preach about. That was one, hope, and the other was faith. Hope suggests that we hope crime will decrease. Hope says we hope officer incidents will decrease. Hope says we hope that our communities will be less aggressive. Hope says that little boys and girls in communities of color will not be judged by the color of their skin, but the content of their character. Hope says, I hope and wish that that would happen. But faith is a little different. Faith says, I'm not just going to hope, but I'm going to get involved and I'm going to make a difference. Faith says, the solutions lie within our community, so we can't just rely on hope. Faith calls us to work, and faith without work is dead. There's a difference in hope and faith. We have faith in one another, and that faith is the substance of things that are hoped for, but it's the evidence of things that are not seen. I believe, like many in the community, like most of our faith-based organizations, in the Jewish and the Muslim and the Christian and other communities, I believe that the answers lie within all of our community organizations. I want every faith-based, every civic and other community organization to go to faithinblue.org. We need every law enforcement agency in this country to work with your faith-based organizations and host events for Faith in Blue Weekend 2022. All the tools and resources have been provided thanks to the generosity of our sponsors, FirstNet Built with AT&T and the Motorola Solutions Foundation. We can do this if we have the courage and capacity to stand together. God bless you, and God bless our country. We'll take questions from members of the press. All the easy questions I'll take, the hard questions Chief Hawkins will take. Any questions from the press audience? Question? Yes.
Can come to the microphone as well. Here's one. Is he still with the group?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. I had a question about recruitment and retention that you might be able to answer, Reverend.
Go right ahead.
In cities where the local government leadership is less supportive of police, is that part of the problem of recruitment and retention, and how do you address that?
Law enforcement agencies will not be able to recruit or retain or attract new talent if police officers continue to have to work under the circumstances and situations that they're working under now. The stresses and the anxiety that's caused by the tensions that we've seen have driven law enforcement professionals away. So there is no way, and I'll ask Chief Gus Stevens from IACP to address this as well as Sheriff Lima from Major County Sheriffs. There is no way to reduce crime, and there is no way to attract new talent in law enforcement if we don't change the discussion and shift the narrative. Again, away from the points of conversation that divide us. Listen, we have issues to deal with. We cannot act like George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and so many others didn't happen, because in fact they did. The question is, how do we make the community safer and stronger, more just, and support law enforcement at the same time? And that's what Faith in Blue Weekend is all about. But it has to happen in every local community and in every local neighborhood. It's great to have these national organizations organizing, but the answers are in the local communities?
That's a great question about recruitment and retention. It's something that the IACP has been discussing, and we've put on a variety of webinars and seminars on that topic. There is really no one reason why our profession is struggling with recruitment and retention right now. There's a variety of reasons, and it hasn't happened overnight. But as the Reverend was saying, all law enforcement is local. And when it comes to recruiting officers and retaining officers, that occurs on a local basis. And so every community, which is why we're here today to talk about this, every community needs to work with their local law enforcement and build these great relationships. And that's really going to drive recruitment and retention. Probably 35 years ago, in one of my former agencies, when we advertised for a law enforcement open position, we'd have 800 to 1,000 applicants. Today we have 50. Now, that didn't happen overnight. There are a lot of reasons. There are other jobs that people are looking at, and law enforcement just doesn't hold the panache that it did 25, 30 years ago. There are people going to other professions. So it's our job as law enforcement leaders to connect with our community and to recruit from within our own community, because that's where you're going to get your officers, in your own town.
Thank you so much for the question on recruitment and retention, because probably when we look at the history of policing, it's probably one of the most significant challenges that we have right now, because as fundamental as you can put it, people are attracted to this business because they have a heart to serve and they want love and appreciation from the recipients of that service. And when there is a false narrative out there, in many regards a radical narrative that wants to defund the police or allowed cities across the country to engage in total lawlessness, your good quality police officers will find a different way to serve. They'll go to the military, they'll serve in the church, they'll serve in the fire department. They will find another calling. And that, maybe not today, but years down the road, when it's those people that you have to advance to senior levels of leadership within those policing organizations, you're going to have a big, big, big problem on your hands. The good news is the narrative is starting to shift. Some of the people that were the strongest advocates of defunding the police are now changing their position because they've seen the violent crime rise in major cities across America, right? And I think that when you look at states like Florida, I mean, we're attracting good, qualified people. Sometimes because of the incentives we offer, but mostly because the communities are not bashful about offering their support and commitment of the men and women that are out there serving as heroes. So again, we're incredibly blessed. It's organizations and advocacies like what we're hearing about today that spark that interest in people's minds. They say, you know what, I'm going to do it. Lastly, as leaders of the major policing organizations, and quite frankly, every organization across America, we have to be the ones to change that narrative. I went into a large group of sheriffs across the country, and I said, by a show of hands, how many of you are encouraging your sons, daughters, grandchildren to get in this business? And there was not enough hands raised in the room. We can do better, and I think efforts like this start to move us down that path.
Any other questions? Yes. Absolutely.
So for those of you who may not have heard, the question is, what are we doing on college campuses to ensure the parents that we're keeping their children safe? So most major universities across the country have made a significant investment in campus safety. The Gene Cleary Act requires us to be more transparent than other agencies are. And we really have a unique opportunity in campus policing to not just be part of the law enforcement profession, but to be part of the educational mission of the university. as you can imagine, most universities have students come in from all over the country and all around the world, and they all bring their own unique experiences with policing in their hometowns where they come from. So, you know, we really embrace that opportunity to really be part of the educational mission to make sure that our students understand that we're there to protect them, not necessarily to arrest them. In campus policing, usually arrest is the last resort. We prefer to do things with educational interventions. But at the end of the day, you know, college campuses are much more prepared than major cities because we have emergency notification systems, we have lockdown drills. The university's made the investment in leadership and in training and equipment to make sure that we're prepared. We always, you know, I often say that we're always training to be prepared for the worst and hoping for the best. But, you know, at the end of the day, we're really held accountable. We're really under a microscope through the Jean Cleary Act, Title IX, and other federal initiatives. And universities take that very seriously to invest in campus safety and security. Thank you.
One final question, if there's another. Yes.
We're marching in the wrong direction. And when you talked about defund, and I know some other people hit on this, but my question is, there is still, and there is a little bit of turnaround of some of those lawmakers and loud voices that came out with defund, but some people are still marching in that wrong direction. So what do you think is going to take to turn it around, and do you think this is a part of that?
Well, I think the way that you deal with the vocal minority, as I refer to it, is you raise the profile and lift the voice of the silent majority. And that's what Faith in Blue Weekend is intended to do. So there are more people that assemble at faith-based organizations on a weekly basis than any other kind of community asset. We were very strategic in organizing Faith in Blue Weekend and anchoring it in the faith space because it gives every local community individually and it gives our nation collectively the opportunity to raise up the voice of the majority and drown out the voice of the minority. Chief Hawkins from NAWLEE referenced this earlier. I've been involved in civil rights all of my life. I led the first march I ever led when I was 16 years old. I'm 45 now. I don't know who these defund the police folks are. They're certainly not from our community. They don't fit. They don't come from the tradition of leadership that I was reared in, mentored by people like Mrs. King and John Lewis and Hosea Williams and Jesse Jackson and all those other folks. They're not of that ilk. So I don't know who they are. And I think, frankly, that whole crowd, the defund the police crowd, those who are demonizing law enforcement, are less concerned about justice and more concerned about division. Oftentimes, a lot of folks choose war because war is more profitable. This is hard work. When I was marching and protesting against cops, and I'll do it again if necessary, but this time I want to march with law enforcement. Most of the time, we found out over maturity and growth that most law enforcement agencies and their executives want to do the right thing. They are as concerned as anyone else. The challenge is we've not had the open lines of communication. And that's what we're doing with Faith in Blue Weekend, opening up those lines of communication. We've heard too much from national talking heads sitting on your network and other cable networks. America needs to hear more from the American people because they actually hold the solutions. And that's why we encourage everyone that leads a law enforcement organization and everyone that leads a faith-based organization to go to faithinblue.org. We've prepared every tool and resources. There are toolkits, everything. There's no cost thanks to the Motorola Solutions Foundation and AT&T. And we ought to have some more sponsors next year because we need additional support. That's a plug. But everything has already been prepared. Finally, in closing, I want to thank our law enforcement state partners from Vermont to Alaska to Florida to California and everywhere in between. The state chiefs, sheriffs, and prosecutors associations are partnering with us as well. The FBI National Academy Associates, FLEOA, FOP, HAPCOA, IACLEA, IACP, the International Brotherhood of Police Officers, major city chiefs, major county sheriffs, the National Association of Assistant U.S. Attorneys, NAWLEE, the National Black Police Officers Association, the National District Attorneys Association, the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund and Museum, the National Narcotics Officers Association Coalition, NOBLE, the National Policing Institute, formerly the National Police Foundation, the National Sheriff's Association, PERF, or the Police Executive Research Forum, the United States Department of Homeland Security, the United States Department of Justice, Secure Communities Network, the Small and Rural Law Enforcement Executives Association, and all of the other partners. Thank you for your engagement. Thank you for your presence. I'm going to ask now, as we close this press conference, that we would just bow our heads for a moment of silence. Recognizing that we're from different faiths, I'm going to say a prayer. God, you are the author and the finisher of our faith. We come here because we have faith in the divine, but some of us come here because we have faith in one another. Bring our nation closer together. We have all the resources, we have all the tools, we have the spirit. Give us the courage to reach beyond our comfort zones, the courage to reach beyond our individual interests, to see that we've got trouble, we've got challenges. Too many young people in communities are choosing the wrong path, and often they don't have very many options for other paths. Bring us to a place where we recognize the commonality in one another. Give us faith that passes all understanding. If we've ever needed the divine before, we sure need it now. Strengthen every law enforcement professional. Regulate their minds, regulate their hearts. Give them a burning desire to serve with dignity and decency and without prejudice. Get in the hearts and minds of every community resident who too often prejudicially judge our law enforcement professionals. Help us to know that we're all your children. We can do nothing by ourselves, but with your help, all things are possible. I pray, God, if you've put anything on the inside of my heart, my mind, and my spirit, I pray that you would protect every law enforcement professional this day, that on this day, August the 9th, there will be no loss of life of a law enforcement professional. God, we believe if you'll do it one day, you'll do it again and again. I pray for the families of the fallen who are on the wall of remembrance and the memorial outside of this building. Get in their hearts and minds, strengthen them. I pray for every young black or brown male who believes that a life of crime is his only pathway forward. Give our nation the courage to give that young man some options. If you do this, we'll be careful to give you thanks. There's so much we don't know and we don't understand about this thing called life, but this thing we do know, that there is a power greater than ourselves that is in control. We know you by many names. We know you as Christians, both Catholic and Protestant. We know you as Jewish. We know you as Muslim. We know you as Hindu and Buddhist. Some of us know you just as Spirit. But bless us and bless the work of our hand. In your name we pray. Amen. Thank you all for coming.